Hello, you legendary listeners. I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I am Ray Auger.
And welcome to podcast 141 of the New England Legends podcast.
I'd say so. We're still here. We're still doing it.
We're still doing it. We are under quarantine. And so what we've been doing the last few weeks is kind of going to the vault.
Yeah.
Busting out some old episodes that you may not have heard before. Maybe you haven't heard them in a long while.
Yeah, well, they're worth replaying. And we've never really done that before. I mean, we share them from time to time. Like, oh, remember this one?
Sure.
But we haven't played them back. And I think some of these really deserve that second listen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And this is one. It's a fun one. There's a quote by Shakespeare, of course. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, right? We know that one. And so, what's in a name? What's in a name? And that's a big part of this episode.
It's very blunt, very straightforward. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no trickery involved.
No, like when something's called something, you got to ask the question sometimes, like, how did it get that name?
Started a little smaller. It grew to epic proportions, but the name remained.
And this is one of those cases where a legend took over to the point where it became official.
Yes.
Right? Totally official. And that's pretty cool.
And there were some neat clues around the lake that we found as we were trying to piece the story together.
Right.
A few other landmarks that were named after events that happened. So it ties up nicely.
It is. It's a fun story, as so many are. Now, for those who've been paying attention, we've been doing kind of a best of for the last few weeks while we're locked in and we can't get out there and hunt legends. But it's sounding like maybe, we're maybe 2-3 weeks away from being able to get out again and get going with some new stories. But we will do that.
Here in Massachusetts, it was May 18th.
Right.
Is what the governor is now saying. But who knows? But we're getting there.
We will do our darndest to do that. And in the meantime, we appreciate you folks that are jumping on our super secret Facebook group. And you could, of course, find the link at our website, ournewenglandlegends.com.
Super secret, but you know what? Not too secret. Not
the
super secret, just super secret.
It's kind of out. The secret's out. But how are you holding up, Ray, in this quarantine?
I'm okay. I'm trying to keep myself busy as you are with your speakeasies.
Yeah.
I've developed a few channels of entertainment myself with the family and then doing like we're doing right here. People can't see it, but we are on one of those Zoom type conference videos.
Right.
And I've been using that as well to connect with people and entertain.
Nope, I totally get it. And let me throw out there, I've been booking a bunch of virtual lectures at libraries. So
fantastic.
So people can attend these things for free. If you're interested, just go to New England Legends website, ournewenglandlegends.com.
All right there. Yeah, they've been great. And what's nice is people can get a taste of it now. And then when it's safe to go out, they'll obviously want to go see you when you're in town. And you hit almost every town in New England, or area, I should say.
That's the hope.
Yeah,
that's the hope. So anyway, thank you, folks. Please stay safe out there.
Thank you.
And enjoy this one from the vault.
Jeff, this seems like a fine afternoon to take a rowboat out, doesn't it?
I agree, it is.
But why are we here on this particular lake in Francestown, New Hampshire?
Well, I thought we'd take the boat out on the lake to see if we could hear ghostly voices crying out from the shore.
So I take it this lake is haunted.
More than you know, Ray. A lot of people call this Scoby Pond because of the family who once owned the land. But officially, this body of water is called Haunted Lake. Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 54 of the New England Legends podcast.
Woo-hoo!
If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And I'm Ray Auger. That's me.
That's it.
Each week, we take you someplace in New England in search of ghosts, monsters, aliens, strange history, and just the plain weird.
Yeah.
You can find all of our archives, plus check out the New England Legends television series on PBS and Amazon Prime, Jeff's upcoming lecture tour, learn how to become a patron, and get access to bonus episodes, all from our website, ournewenglandlegends.com.
It is quite a place, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. So we appreciate everyone who's been interacting with us through our website, super secret Facebook group, and our legend line at 617-444-9683. Call or text us anytime.
All right, Jeff, you're telling me that this lake in Francestown, New Hampshire is officially called Haunted Lake?
It really is. Here, check out Google Maps.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how did this happen?
Ray, I'm really glad you asked that question. The story goes that centuries ago, a man was murdered on the shore of this lake and buried in the shallow ground. His spirit cries out at night and has haunted this place pretty much ever since.
That sounds like some pretty generic folklore, Jeff. You know better than that.
Yeah, well,
I can't imagine that's enough to get the body of water named something as ominous as Haunted Lake, though.
I agree with you there, Ray, so we're going to have to investigate.
Yes.
So the next question is, can we find facts? Can we find any physical evidence?
Well, here's the crazy thing.
Okay.
When you start digging in on this one, it turns out sometimes where there's smoke, well, there's fire.
Ooh,
Yeah.
really?
So we have to look how far back this name and story goes.
It turns out centuries.
Centuries?
First, a little more information about this lake.
Okay.
It's about 1 mile in length, measuring east to west, and a little less than a mile measuring north to south. And it's also pretty shallow overall.
And we did some research, as we always do with these stories.
Right.
And we found a book published in 1895 called History of Francestown, New Hampshire, 1758 to 1891. It was edited and written by Reverend W.R. Cochran and George K. Wood. Here, take a look.
Ray, I've seen big city phone books shorter than this. This thing's like over 1,000 pages long.
I know, but the part we're concerned with is section 21 of this book.
Okay, let's check that out. In reading this mighty tome, we find there's more than one theory as to where the name and reputation came from. In one version, there's a story that a fire once scorched all the trees along the shore until they were black. When surveyors came by soon after that, they looked and saw a horror scene. So they gave the lake a spooky name.
Another version pertains to the landowners, the Scobie family. Some suggested the Scobie boys would frighten certain, quote, liquor-soaked loafers
Right.
by the lake by acting like ghosts and monsters as people pass by.
But that version of the story doesn't hold up because the water was known as Haunted Lake before the Scobie family ever even purchased the land.
Now, the most prominent story involves two men who in 1741 came up from the south bound for Hillsborough to buy land for a settlement.
Okay.
So these two guys run into each other along the way and decide to travel together for a bit because they're both heading for the same town.
Makes sense.
right?
Yep, sure.
Camping by this lake, the two get into a quarrel and one kills the other, then buries him beside the lake.
Well, this begs the next question, which is, can we prove that happened? Was there a murder here? If we jump ahead a little bit to 1753, we find the diary of the Honorable Matthew Patten of Bedford, who had been hired to survey the lake and make a schedule of lots. His diary mentions that this was called Haunted Pond even back then.
A haunted pond or lake?
It's been called both a lake and a pond, and in the interest of being thorough, I checked exactly what the difference is between a pond and a lake.
And what did you find?
It turns out it's totally arbitrary. So while it's agreed that lakes are bigger than ponds, the exact point at which a pond becomes a lake isn't clearly defined. So it's pretty much left to every community to either call a body of water one label or another.
I guess we're not here to debate the pond or lake part of the name anyway,
No,
right?
we're not.
All right, we're here to talk about the haunting.
True. So the Honorable Matthew Patten writes about his experience by Haunted Pond in 1753 with his two chainmen.
Soon after darkness set in, there commenced groanings and shrieks as of a human being in distress, and these continued, most plaintive and affecting, till early morning. These chainmen were hardy fellows, not accustomed to fear the face of man, but they had some superstition and some alarm at signs and bad omens, and they could not be persuaded to continue their work, even for an hour. They started at once in the morning for their home in Bedford. This event, of course, confirmed previous rumors that the place was haunted and established the name Haunted Pond.
By 1753, this was already known as Haunted Pond, or Lake, for at least a generation.
That's quite a ghost experience circa 1753.
Yeah.
But it's still just a story, right?
Well, it turns out this story has legs and ribs and all kinds of other bones.
What do you mean?
In 1780, new landowner David Scobie was building a sawmill near the outlet of the pond where he could have running water to power the mill. While they were dragging logs down over the bank into position for the future water wheel, they uncovered something. A human skeleton was unearthed right near where Scobie was constructing his mill.
Whoa. Suddenly, the murder story sounds a lot more fact than fiction.
I know, it does. We may not know actual names or dates, but suddenly there's a body.
After the Scobie mill was in operation, David's son had some fun exploiting the name and reputation of Haunted Pond by dousing some fabrics in flammable oils. They'd set these effigies on a raft and push it out into the lake on fire at night while they were screaming and howling.
So that really did happen.
It did. And the hoax mixes with the history, mixes with the legend, and people can say the name is just a made-up story.
And you can't really blame the Scobie boys, can you?
No, not at all.
I get it. So I think at this point, let's row the boat ashore and check out one more thing.
All right, what are we looking for?
If there was a mill here in 1780, we might still be able to find some signs of it. We're setting the boat in the northeastern corner of the lake.
All right, why this spot?
Well, two reasons. First, if we check Google Maps again, we can see there are two streams that are outlets from the pond right around here. If you were to build a mill, you'd need that to run the water wheel.
Okay, and the second reason?
Well, if you allow me to look at Google Maps one more time,
Sure.
Check out the name of the road that runs right next to this part of the lake.
Scobie Road.
Right.
I guess sometimes the signs are obvious, aren't they?
They sometimes are. So just a hunch that the name Scobie Road was named after the guy who once owned the land right here, which makes me think his mill was right around this area where we are right now. So let's look.
I see a stream right over here.
Yeah, I think that's it. Let's look up just a little bit further.
All right, I see an old stone wall built right around the stream.
This has to be the Scobie Mill site. That would have dammed up the water to help run the water wheel.
Which means the skeleton would have been unearthed, like right about where you're standing.
It's a little unnerving, isn't it?
It is, especially considering it's starting to get a little dark, Jeff.
Though we can't say with certainty a murder took place here, there's an awful lot of circumstantial evidence behind this story and the name Haunted Lake.
I guess the only thing left at this point is to listen for those groans and screams in the dark.
Ray, did you know the other major body of water in Francestown is called, and I'm not making this up,
Okay.
Pleasant Pond? But
No way.
that's a story for another podcast.
Meaning a podcast that isn't the New England Legends podcast?
Exactly. That's not up our alley at all.
All right. We'd like to thank Michael Legge for lending his voice acting talents this week. And our theme music is, of course, by John Judd.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.